Alright guys, so this is day one of the installation of the A-list house. This is about a 3,000 square foot home. So I'm going to walk through and kind of point out what we're doing here. So Core-Tec of course can go down over structure that is solid. So this is a glue down floor, so we can go right into it, right over the top of it with this floating system. That's not a problem at all. A lot of flooring companies try to come in and say, hey, you got to tear this stuff out. They just want to make that extra bit of money coming in and tearing your floor out. But you don't always have to do that. Sometimes you do have to do that. But if you've got a good solid surface with no boards that are popping up that are going to, impede the floor or make your joints not go together smoothly, you're good to go. So what we've done here, if you guys take a look, we got our first straight row, and Ashley's going to take a shot all the way down so you guys can see. And she'll stay right there while I kind of point out what we've done. So the main thing is getting your first initial run straight. Everything is going to tie off of this row right here. So if you'll follow me, Ashley, and I'll kind of point out what's going on. Everything is going to tie off of this row right here. So we're going to wrap around right here. All of these are going to install. All of these are going to install. Right here, going to come on up over here, and what goes around over there is going to come back around through his office, come back through the foyer, and it's all going to meet back up right here in front of this door. So we measured off of where we started our first row to see what kind of piece we're going to have end up right here, because I don't want, when I end up here, to have to install a piece that's going to have to wrap around right here and meet up with a piece that's going to have to wrap around right here and right here. That's a very difficult piece to install. So we laid it out to where we're going to have part of the board that'll run underneath the jamb right here and come out this way, and the other board will do the same thing. We can get those together pretty easily. All right. So once you've got that, then you can go ahead and install your first run. Now you guys are going to notice these little blocks that I've got right here. There's a reason we do that. And a lot of LVP guys don't really know this trick. It's a really good trick that saved me a lot of grief throughout the years. So this is an old trick that I learned from doing hardwood flooring, all right? So when you're doing hardwood flooring, you're power nailing, and you got a lot of pressure that's pushing against that tongue on this side right here. Well, the same thing with LVP. We're pushing these planks into this row right here. So what I've done is to get this first shot and have it to where nothing's gonna move, we just take little blocks and we install them right here, installed in between the butt seams, the butt joints, okay? And I screw these in so they're not going anywhere. So now I can go ahead and start installing all the way into this first row. And it's gonna go pretty quick now. And Ashley, if you'll just take a shot all the way down there and show them, all these blocks are installed all the way down so that no matter how hard we push against it, it's not gonna go anywhere. And of course, we like to install on a 3-1-2 ratio. What I mean by that is that number 3 is your longest plank. Number 2 is a 3/4 plank. Number 1 is a short plank. A 3-1-2 ratio will allow you to have a very natural pattern in your floor. You don't want your seams lining up. I go in so many installations where they've got an offset pattern. And what I mean by an offset pattern is I'll have a couple planks that are installed like this right here. They'll put the next row like this right here, dead in the center, and then they'll line the next seam up right here for this row, right there with that, all the way through the floor. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. That looks tacky. You want your floor, if you're doing LVP, luxury vinyl plank, to look like a natural wood floor. LVT is a luxury vinyl tile that you can do an offset pattern with because it's a tile look. But if you're doing a wood look floor, you want it to look like a natural wood floor. And natural wood floors, there's a lot of characteristic through it. It blend. There's no pattern to it. So you want to avoid stair step patterns. And what I mean by that is where you can look down your floor and see actual stair steps in your pattern. You don't want that. You want a very unnatural looking pattern. So we use the 3-1-2 ratio. 3 being my long board, and I didn't do it right here, but I'm going to do it on the rest of them. There's a reason why I didn't do it right here. But typically I would do a short board right here for this next row. Then I would do a longer board. This board would have gone right here. And that will allow you to have a very natural flowing pattern all the way through your floor. So right here, I cut this piece to fit around this fireplace. The fireplace is coming up too high above the new floor. So what we're gonna do here is a T-molding that we will picture frame around here. It's gonna tie in very nicely. And if you look back at my old video, you'll see how we did that. Now the way that I got this cut, the next thing I wanna talk to you guys is about cheat boards, okay? It's a very important trick that installers use. So a cheat board, what we do is we take a plank about this size and you're gonna cut the lip off of it. So I would take, and I'm gonna show you on the trash one, you would take your knife and you would take the lip and you would cut at an angle into the crotch like that right there. Getting rid of that, all right? Then you would come on the other side and you would very carefully, without cutting your fingers, cut this one off. Don't cut into the plank. And cut that off. And that right there is going to create a cheat board for you, which is what this is right here. And what that allows me to do is get a perfect cut. So what I would do then is I would line my plank that I'm trying to cut up on top of the row that's in front of what I'm trying to cut around. So I've already cut this one, but I'm going to use it as an example. I line it up perfectly on top of the row in front of the row that I want the next piece to fit into, okay? Like this right here. Line that up perfectly. I push this cheat board against whatever I'm trying to score around. This right here. And then I make my mark. And then I come over here and I line my cheat board up around the next part that I want to cut around. Make my mark. And that allowed me to get this cut piece right here. It's going to fit perfectly in here, guys. Boom. That fits gorgeously. We want to leave a little bit of a gap for the floor to be able to float and play. You always want to leave a little bit of a gap. So that's why I got that gap right there. You don't fit these floors in tight. You don't do that with a floating floor. A floating floor needs to be able to move with the house as it breathes. You know, I've said this before, but I compare the floating floor to like tectonic plates on top of the earth, right? So when a tectonic plate is moving around, if it has nowhere to go, when pressure builds against it, it's going to form a mountain. And that's why some of you guys have peaking floors where your laminate or your LVP is puckering at the seams, or you might have bubbles throughout your floor, you know, where it's pushing up. And that's why that's happening, because they didn't cut expansion gaps around your walls. Your home is a living, breathing thing. It's always breathing in and out with temperature changes, with moisture changes, with the seasonal changes. That causes your home to expand and retract. As it expands or retracts, it pushes against the floors in your home. And if they haven't got anywhere to go, they're going to pucker, okay? So that's why you always want to leave a little bit of a gap. We can usually typically leave about an 1/8 inch. 1/8 inch is good enough. You're going to be safe with an 1/8 of an inch. So the next thing that I do is we stagger as we install. And that makes it much easier to install these floors in a more timely manner. So what I mean by that is I'm going to install this row right here. And you can see the value of having this right here, because I can hit as hard against it as I want to and it's not going anywhere. Get this row right here, make sure there's not anything underneath. That final tap at the end is going to lock this system all the way in to where it's tight. All right, now go ahead and get my next piece. Now, here's another little trick. If you're trying to get your cut right to fit against a wall, and you want them not line, you don't want to line your seams up. So I know I don't want to use a whole board right here, because if I put a whole board butted up against that, this seam is going to be too close to that seam. Can you see it? This seam is going to be too close to that seam. That's not good. We don't want our seams too close. We want it to look very natural the way we install it. So I'm going to flip it with the big lip. I've got big lips facing that way. I'm installing the small lip into the big lip. I'm going to turn the big lip towards me. I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, where do I want my seam to fall over here? Well, I got a seam right here, I got a seam right here, I got a seam right there. Me personally, I want my next seam for it to look natural to fall right here. So I'm going to score it. I'm going to turn it, flip it, pop it. And now, when I turn it back the way that it's supposed to go, my seam is falling exactly where I want it to. All right? And that's what I mean by a 3-1-2 ratio. So now I've got a long board right here. I've got a shorter board right here. My next seam is going to fall kind of in here. Maybe I'll do it down here. You know, you can switch it up, but you want your seams to be pretty far apart and not staggered where you can see a stair-step pattern. You shouldn't be able to looking down your floor and see a natural pattern, something that looks man-made. You want it to look very natural, okay? So, see if I can find me a starter piece here, because I like to stagger out, and you're going to see why here in just a minute. I'll like to do that. Line my board up right here. So, looking at this, I'm probably going to want to put my next seam right here. So, boom, pop that right there. Boom, that's good to go. Now, this is a finishing board. I'll slide that down here so that I can use that at the end. You want to use as many of your scraps as possible to save yourself on square footage. All right, make sure there's nothing underneath there. There's a nail right here that somebody okay. Put that in there like that. Pop it home. When you hear that clack, that's it locking. It's very important to hear that. Now, come on down. Installing this way allows you to have speed and precision. Okay? So, because I'm doing this, I know that it's tight. If I was just to install one row all the way down, it can kind of kick on. But doing it this way, I know I'm square with this butt seam, and I know I'm square right here. So, I'm good. I know I'm not running off. Very important when you're doing this, especially when you're doing large expanses of floor. Let's get that locked in there. Follow me as I install it a little bit. And if you pop, you know, if you while you're doing this, if your butt joint kind of separates a little bit, you can do what I just did. Come back and tap it forward that way. If you can't get this in between over there, you can go to Lowe's and get you these metal tap bars. And this right here works pretty easily. You just put it against the wall over here, tap it down, tap it forward, pretty good. And that'll get you taken care of. And I'm gonna let Ashley keep filming because you guys are gonna see if this is done with the pattern that I told you that I'm showing you right here. Man, you're gonna cruise. You're gonna cruise. Go quick. So we'll come on down now. Get the next board. Make sure you're square when you install this. Watch your edges and make sure you're not installing a damaged piece. right here. Should be able to get one more full board in there. Looks like it. Yeah. Yep, we're good. Mold lifter, kick that down to me. And that. And that. And the tapper, metal tapper. Metal tapper.